Travel along, Catholic pilgrims, as we read letters from the voyages of St. Frances Cabrini as she traveled around the Western Hemisphere sharing the good news of Christ. All right, Catholic pilgrims, this is the last letter. Since it's longer, we are going to break it up into 3 parts. But don't worry, we still have 5 more episodes to go, including this one. This letter is to the Teachers College in Rome, just like the last 2 letters, and it's 12 years before her death, and 3 years before she is a naturalized citizen of the U.S. In what we read today, she's going to talk a lot about her fellow Italian immigrants, and you're going to hear some longing in her voice for her mother country, Italy. No matter where you roam, home is home. What stands out to me about her writings today is that oftentimes we think the grass will be greener on the other side, and that obviously isn't always the case. Sometimes it is, but not always. We will begin part 1 on page 321 and end for the day on page 328 at the first full paragraph. Grab your books and we'll begin. Letter to the students of the Teachers College in Rome, February 1906. Chicago, February 1906. My dear daughters, I was very pleased to receive your letters and wishes for a happy Christmas, though I had hoped that this year at least I would have been in the Eternal City to spend the Holy Feast with you, and so be able to reciprocate your happy wishes in person. On the contrary, I must now convey them to you 100-fold in writing. I confess that such noble and kind expressions of feelings on your part have given me great consolation in the deep regret I feel at finding myself still so far from Rome. Duty alone, which the missionary must always put before pleasure, has kept me so long from Italy, but believe me, immediately the little business which detains me now is finished, I shall not delay my departure a single day. How many times have I thought myself almost at the end of my present mission in the United States, when I have found new work to do, work that I could not have neglected without neglecting the holy interests of the glory of God and the salvation of souls. But now I am in a position to assure you that in a few weeks I shall be with you to rejoice in your virtues, in your progress, and in your loving company. I wrote to you from the summit of the Rocky Mountains, promising to tell you something of my journey to California, and I do not think you will be disposed to forgive me if I forgot my promise. Hence, I steal a little time, at one moment from my religious, and at another from business, to converse with you. I think I wrote to you of my work in Denver for the enlargement of the orphanage we have in that city for the daughters of our immigrants. It will be enough for you to know that, with the help of the Sacred Heart, always ready to favor us, I have been able to acquire a beautiful property at the foot of the Rocky Mountains, standing upon a pleasant hill which descends with a gentle slope to the banks of the Rocky Mountains Lake. The house, to which a wing is being added, because space is already limited on account of the 30 orphans which are gathered there this first year, is surrounded by trees laden with fruit, and enhanced by the proximity of the clear waters of the lake. To the west extends the imposing rocky chain with its summits covered with snow. To the east is the beautiful city of Denver. To the south and north are great plains, 3/4 of which include the territory of Colorado. Meanwhile, seated in a comfortable carriage of the Santa Fe Railway, which was taking me to Los Angeles, my glance swept across those immense plains which, around Denver, are dotted with the cottages of our Italian agriculturists, and which, further on, are uninhabited, there being immense tracts still of virgin soil. My thoughts flew to our immigrants, who in such great numbers land every year on the Atlantic shores, overcrowding still more the already populous city of the East, where they meet with great difficulties and little gain. In the West, there is still room for millions and millions, and its most fertile soil would offer occupation more congenial to the Italian immigrants, as well as a field in which to develop their activities and their agrarian knowledge, and to crown their efforts and labors with copious results. This stream of population must have its course intelligently directed. I know that the Immigration Department is occupying itself with this problem, which is so important for the welfare of our immigrants in the United States. The solution, however, presents great difficulty not only because of the 4,000 miles which separate the Atlantic from the Pacific, but more especially because it is difficult to find good-hearted persons who will occupy themselves with the work and will not speculate in the sacred interests of the poor. Poor immigrants are so often cheated by those who pretend to be their protectors. This deception is all the more cruel because these so-called protectors know well how to color their private interests under the cloak of charity and patriotism. During my journey, I saw these dear fellows of ours engaged on the construction of railways in the most intricate mountain gorges, miles and miles away from any inhabited region. Hence they are separated for years from their families, far from the church, deprived of the holy joys which in our own country the poor peasant has on Sundays at least. In Italy, the peasant is able to put his hoe aside and, in his best clothes, after having consecrated the morning to divine service and heard the words of the priest, who reminds him of the nobility of his origin and of his destiny, and of the value of work consecrated to God, has one day in the week to devote to his family and to honest amusements, and is thus able to resume his work the next morning with his mind invigorated. Here, the hardest labor is reserved for the Italian worker. There are few who regard him with a sympathetic eye, who care for him or remember that he has a heart and soul. They merely look upon him as an ingenious machine for work. It is true that here the Italian wins esteem because he is sober, honest, faithful, and industrious. But how much real joy does he not give up in leaving his native country for foreign lands, without anyone to guide him on the road of true happiness, which does not consist in hoarding heaps of money, which, more often than not, cannot be enjoyed when misfortune comes. How much better his little field in his native country would be for him! What a great social and philanthropic work could be achieved by anyone who knew how to turn these hands, which waste their activity to the advantage of foreign countries, to the benefit of our own lovely land. I do not mean to deny that there are advantages in these immense fertile virgin lands. They certainly offer the immigrants work and a comfortable life, but I trust that some really generous minds may arise who will take to heart the interests of the poor and direct them well and conscientiously when they land on these shores. I can assure you now that in my journey through our missions, the evidence of the good that is being done by our institutions for the immigrants is of the greatest comfort to me. That which, being women, we are not allowed to do on a large scale, such as helping to solve important social problems, is being done in our little sphere in every state and in every city where our houses have been opened. In them, the orphans, the sick, and the poor are sheltered. But the good done by coming into contact with a great number of people, which such institutions of charity make it easy for the sisters of the colony to get into touch with, is immense. The relations between the sisters and the people are very cordial. The poor people call them mothers and sisters, and they feel these words are not without meaning, for they know that with which such titles, hearts truly maternal correspond. They know that the hearts of the sisters palpitate in unison with theirs, and that, having put aside all thoughts of themselves, the sisters make their troubles, their interests, and their joys their own. All this, however, is not our merit, but the fruit of the love of Christ and of the prodigious fertility of our holy religion, the true friend of the people, the light which guides them in the darkness, the house of refuge, tower of strength, and port of safety. While I am conversing with you, we have reached the Colorado Springs, the aristocratic city of Colorado, which rises out of the shadow of Pikes Peak, one of the highest summits of these mountains. The weak and consumptive are attracted here by the mildness of the climate, the salubrity of the surrounding mountains, and the many and various mineral waters which on every side spring up fresh, foaming, and sparkling. The Indians, astonished at such a wealth of mineral waters, thought their god Manitou, an Indian word which means great spirit, lived in these mountains, and especially in the one called the Garden of the Gods. On my return, I will show you a view of this natural park, several hundred acres in extent, in which brightly colored rocks are scattered in thousands and sculpted by nature in the most strange forms, now imposing, now grotesque, sometimes austere, sometimes frivolous, as it were, presenting the strangest appearances. Here, a little further on, General Palmer, one of our good benefactors, possesses a private Garden of the Gods, a real jewel of art, both as regards the palace he has built and the natural beauty of the rocks, which here form very high peaks, reflecting the most varied colors. Among the rocks can still be seen the nest of an eagle, which for years lived here as queen of the mountains. But a short time ago its young eaglet was killed, and since that day the noble bird has deserted the nest, to the great regret of the general, as may be imagined, as he had become very proud of it. Leaving the Colorado Springs, we reached Trinidad in a few hours. This is an important field of various mines, especially coal, in which very many Italians are employed. Our sisters visit them regularly, and to these poor people such a visit is like a ray of sun in the darkness of the bowels of the earth. They speak to them of their daughters whom they have under their charge, and of their families whom they have visited. They remind them of their religious duties, comfort them in the sadness of their miserable conditions, and always leave them happier, or at least more resigned to their poverty. The fatigues of the sisters in climbing up the steepest mountains are rewarded by the smiles which light up the faces of these poor people on hearing the maternal tongue resounding in these dark vaults. Poor miners! Do you want to know what their life is? Those who work on a day shift enter the mines at 6 o'clock and remain buried there till midday. They come out at 12 o'clock for a short meal and go in again at 12:30 to leave at 5. Half an hour is spent in washing themselves and preparing for supper. When they have finished this meal, feeling worn out, they throw themselves on their little beds to rise again the following morning at the sound of the whistle which calls them to work. On Sundays they smoke and sleep. This is the life they lead, far from their families and separated from the company of men. They continue uninterruptedly year in and year out until old age and incapacity creep over them, or at least until some day a landslide or explosion or an accident of some kind ends the life of the poor worker, who does not even need a grave, being buried in the one in which he has lived all his life. Oh, if the voice of religion at least could reach all these poor people and teach them to make holy and noble such fatiguing work, and to render it fruitful for eternity, what a boon it would be for them. Thus you see the tremendous responsibility resting on those who take away the gift of faith from the working classes, for in so doing they rob them of every hope of the future life, banishing the love of God from their hearts. Take away the supernatural principles and dictates of our holy faith, and what remains but wickedness and the indulgence of every passion? Pray, my good daughters, that the number of missionary workers may be increased, and that they may be really zealous and good-hearted, because the efforts of such are capable of arresting the materialism and unbelief which, like a most subtle ether, infiltrates itself everywhere, causing great, immense, and irreparable damage. Pray that all the docile faithful may listen to the voice of the Vicar of Jesus Christ, Pope Pius X, who, conscious of these great evils which threaten to shake the foundations of society, proposes to restore everything in Christ. Strong in the strength of God, assisted as he is by the Holy Ghost, he will not fail to fulfill in the Church the high mission to which God has elected him. But at the same time, what fatigue he must suffer, what cares, what troubles must torment his heart and preoccupy his mind in such an arduous task. At least let him feel that he is comforted by the love and obedience of his children, and let him find in each and every one that cooperation which is in our bounden duty to give to him. This cooperation will make possible the fulfillment of the holy designs of the Pope and the arresting of the many evils which threaten to overwhelm the world. We will pause here and pick right back up tomorrow, Catholic pilgrims. Until then, live the faith boldly and travel well.